Seating the CPU on the motherboard is another area where mistakes are common, as well as when removing it from the socket. First, installation precautions. Try not to tilt the CPU when lowering it into place. Don't drag and drop the CPU across the socket. When seating the CPU, it's not necessary to wiggle or reposition it. This will damage the socket contacts. Always ensure that the CPU is seated level so that the load plate does not damage it when the load plate is rotated into position. The proper way to perform CPU installation is to ensure that pin 1's gold triangle matches the socket pin 1 indicator and that the CPU notches mate with the socket keys. Keep the CPU level and lower it directly into the socket without dragging or wiggling it. When removing the CPU from the motherboard, do not tilt and dig to separate it from the socket. Rather, use 2 fingers on the edges and lift it straight up. A vacuum pen can also be used, which will be demonstrated in a moment. When closing or opening the load plate, do not attempt this with only one hand, or a mousetrap snapping effect can occur. Use 2 hands, one to apply downward pressure on the load plate, and the other to move the lever into the open or closed position. Do not leave the lever in a partially locked position. It could suddenly come free, allowing the load plate to loosen. Be sure the lever is securely locked under the retaining tang on the motherboard. And finally, don't close the lever under the load plate's end tab. Ensure that the lever arm is on top of the plate's tab. The vacuum pen is not to be used during CPU insertion. When removing the CPU from the motherboard with the vacuum pen, do not place the suction cup off-center. The proper way to use the vacuum pen is to place the cup in the middle of the CPU and lift it straight up. Common mistakes in handling the 775 LAN LGA components have been demonstrated in this portion of the video. Paying careful attention to the information presented here will help avoid expensive damage to product and lost time.